Welcome to the Shared Path. I'm Maggie Linton. Our next guest is a Grammy Award-winning drummer, musician, educator, and lots more. Dion Parson is a Virgin Island native and is sharing his passion for music with the world and through his 21st Century Band. We're going to learn a lot about him today. Welcome, Dion.
It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, truly my pleasure. Let's begin with how you knew that music was your passion, because it started quite young, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It started very, very young. I was at a young age. I always knew. I was that kid that kind of banged on everything and made my own makeshift drum sets out of pots and pans and buckets and anything I could pull together, tie up together. And that's how I got started. And interestingly enough, when I started attending school and started getting into music, my first instrument was the recorder in third grade. And in fourth grade, we had to choose an instrument. And my mother came to school and like very strongly impressed upon the band director that she did not want me to play drums. So I ended up playing the trombone. That's the instrument that was chosen for me at that age. So I played trombone all the way up to high school, and then I, consciously made a switch over to drums. That's what I wanted to do. So which actually worked for me because I really learned a lot about music, harmony, theory along the way. So by the time I really became a drummer, I had a good foundation on the theoretical aspects of music.
That's what's so important. I think that music should be taught to everybody because it really does
Mm-hmm.
awaken an interest and your love of music. I played in a band for a long time, played bassoon as well as alto sax and piano. Not real good at the piano, but I learned to love music and all different kinds of it. And that's what people need to find what they really love, don't they?
Yes, yes. I really believe that we all are put here with our talent and our purpose. And some of us find it early, some of us find it later, some of us don't find it. But I really believe that we all are put here on this planet with a special gift, and that's our calling. And I feel blessed to have found mine at an early age and to have been able to develop it the way I have and been in the presence of so many great, wonderful, talented, inspiring musicians. So I'm really, really excited, of what I've been able to accomplish and the people that I've been able to meet and influence as well along the way.
One of the other things that was so interesting about you is you wound up going to a music festival in Interlochen in Michigan, and that kind of changed your trajectory also, didn't it?
Yes, yes. That really was the first calling. When I went to Interlochen, I had just completed my freshman year of high school. I was 14, turning 15, and I've never been surrounded by that level of intensity, from a creative standpoint. And, from the time you wake up in the morning, you get on the field, you exercise, and it's music all day, from theory classes to rehearsals to sectionals to different aspects of music, and it was just so amazing for me. And that short period of time really set the path for me. I really knew at that point that music is what I wanted to do. I mean, Interlochen was that impressive on me. It made a huge impact on me.
It also led to you getting what we hear about a lot of times at Thanksgiving time and Rose Parades is the McDonald's All American Band. And you were chosen
Yeah,
as the Virgin Islands representative. And I think that that's just so cool.
it's I regret that they don't have that band anymore. They stopped doing it. I think maybe about 5 or 6 years after I participated in it, 84, 85. So many great musicians came out of that band. Wycliffe Gordon, Chris Bodie, Don Braden, just to name a few. That band was a calling for great musicians, at that time. They picked two musicians from every state, one from Puerto Rico, one from the Virgin Islands, one from Guam. And we met every year. And between Thanksgiving and I think the end of January, we did a number of activities between the Rose Bowl parade in Pasadena, California, the Fiesta Bowl parade in Arizona, of course, the Macy's Day Parade, and a number of events for McDonald's along the way. And it was just, again, like interlocking, it was just music nonstop. We got up like 5 a.m, exercised, and just went at it. And it was so amazing, the talent that was, part of that group that you were surrounded by. Again, by the time I was a senior in high school and participated in All-American McDonald's All-American Band, I was set on my path. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It was a no-brainer.
Also by traveling the way you did with that group, it taught you a little bit about what your future was going to be like too, as far as going from different locations and being prepared when you got there.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, because none of the performances were in one location, so we every day got up and traveled to different performances. The traveling was fun because everybody was so excited. We were young, we were eager to just learn new things and see new places, but we were all focused on the task at hand, which was performing, and that kind of set the tone for me going to college and then later on just moving to New York and just pursuing a career as a professional drummer, percussionist. And that's all we did. We traveled nonstop to perform, and it's not for everyone, and it's not as pleasant as it seems. A lot of people would say to me, "Oh man, all you do is travel the world and play music," but there's so many components, so many moving parts between immigration and visas and checking into the airport and the different flights and the hotels. So there are a lot of moving parts, and the one thing you have to be aware of is that you have to stay healthy through all of this. You have to make sure that you don't catch a cold. You have to eat well, because the folks that are hiring you, the producers that are expecting you to show up and perform, they want you to show up and perform at your
Yeah.
best all the time.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes our traveling conditions may not be ideal, and nobody wants to hear about that. So that's the other thing that you learn is, like, whatever happens on the road stays on the road. Your job is to get on stage and perform. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So you learned a professionalism, went to Rutgers, and then you truly made even more contacts there, but it also formed the start of your being interested in educating others too.
Yes. Yeah. Rutgers was another, how should I say, pivotal point in my life, because believe it or not, when I got to Rutgers in 1985, I never took a drum lesson in my life.
Really?
So everything up until that point, getting into McDonald's All-American High School Band was all raw talent. I never had anybody sit down next to me and said, "This is a 5-stroke roll. This is how you hold your stick." Everything I had accomplished at that point was just watching other people do it and asking questions from my band directors, and none of them were drummers. I never had a drum teacher until I got to Rutgers, and that I pursued music education because of that. There were so many aspects of being a professional musician that I didn't know, because I didn't have the foundation that other students at that time coming in as a freshman had. So I chose music education as a means to as something to fall back on. But the main reason I chose music education, because I said to myself, if I could learn to be a teacher, and I got this far with no guidance, if I could learn what it is to be a true educator, I can be a better performer, because I know the tools that you need to have to teach. So I chose music education to actually get a better understanding of how it is and what's needed to research and teach. And then I fell in love with education. It actually worked out great for me, because here it is 30 years later, and I'm an educator and performing as well. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really worked out for me. Yeah.
And oh, the knowledge that you can share that you didn't learn until much later, and through high school, and being able to actually teach the drums and how they help lead the band and keep that band in focus is so very important.
Yes. Yes. My years at Rutgers they were amazing. They really were eye opening. I was mature enough to understand what was happening at that time, and I really took, like you said, to take the bull by the horn and just ride that wave. And Rutgers introduced me to New York, and by the time I graduated, I was on tour. I was, one foot in New York, one foot in New Jersey, and it took me about another 2 years after I graduated with my bachelor's to actually move to New York. I was in grad school at that time. I completed my first year, and then I said goodbye to grad school, and I officially went on tour for about 20 years and never looked back. And it was an amazing time. I learned a lot. Recorded with so many musicians. Recorded on over 100 plus CDs, and it was just an amazing time. The world has changed since then. A lot of the opportunities that existed then don't exist for most of the younger musicians, and that's why school is so important, because that's where you make your contacts now. But back then, you still had to come on the scene and prove yourself, and go to jam sessions and get beat up on stage. so so it was a good time.
Yeah. When you were talking about contacts, one of the ones that turned out most important for you was Ron Blake. And talk about that
Yeah.
friendship.
Yes. So Ron, my brother, yes. So Ron is from the Virgin Islands as well, and he's a couple of years older than me. We knew of each other growing up, and by the time I got to high school, Ron was at Interlochen Music Academy full time. So again, when he got to high school, he went to Interlochen for the summer and then received a full scholarship to remain there for the academic year, which he stayed. I attended Interlochen during the summer and then returned back home. And the interesting thing about the relationship Ron and I have is that it's an extension of our father's relationship. So Ron's father and my father was like hanging buddies. They hung out everywhere and they loved music, and it was just amazing. Ron was in Michigan attending Interlochen, and I was in St. Thomas, and I would perform different places. And my father and Ron's father would show up, and Ron's father would always slip me a cassette. Hey, this is Ron. You got to listen to my son play. So we had this rapport going on through our fathers. And then Ron would come home for Christmas break, and he was at the time a classical alto saxophone major studying at Interlaken, and he was dabbling in jazz. And same was I. I was actually a classical percussionist dabbling in jazz, and that was our relationship. And once we graduated from high school, I moved to I went to Rutgers, of course, and then after finishing up Rutgers, I moved to New York. I was in New York for 2 years, and then Ron moved to New York, and then we became roommates for about 8 years. And man, we had so much fun practicing and playing and jam sessions and just hanging out with all the, at the time, we were called Young Lions, hanging out in New York. Um, Greg Hutchison, Mark Carey, Christian McBride, Roy Hargrove, Dwayne Bruno, the bassist. I mean, we just hung out everywhere. We went everywhere together. And Greg and Mark was playing with Betty Carter, and then Dwayne Bruno joined that group. I was playing with Ray Anderson. Then I hooked up with Donald Harrison and Monty Alexander, John Faddish. So I was playing with the three of those guys. And then Ron Blake eventually joined Roy Hargrove's group. So we had this whole dynamic of young musicians, and Mark lived on 2 floors up from us on the fourth floor, 936 Nicholas Avenue,
Oh,
and Ron and I
okay.
lived on the second floor. So we would hang out, and it was nonstop music for about 8 years in our lives. It was just an amazing time, man. And one of the good things that flourished out of the relationship with Ron and I living together were we had the bright idea to put uh, a collective group together of musicians from the Virgin Islands, and that's how our 21st Century Band was formed, out of that friendship, of that relationship, and that creative spark that came from us living in New York and missing our cultural music, and decided to put the two together, jazz and Caribbean music.
Caribbean
Hence
flavor.
the Caribbean flavor, right, right. Hence
Yeah.
jazz Caribbean, where jazz meets the Caribbean. So that's what we call our fusion of music. So it was a good time, and Ron and I are still good friends to this day. And of course, I'm not in New York anymore on a regular basis, but we still speak on a regular basis and still perform together. And yeah, we have a great relationship. Really nice.
Let's move along because you just mentioned the way that I met you was through the 21st Century Band. And
Hmm.
you all just such a blend of men who just rock it and but mellow at the same time. And also all of them are educators too and have master's degrees. Talk about putting that group together because they are very special people who are constantly giving back.
Yes, and you touched on some really good points of being educators. The fact that I came up uh, without a drum teacher, and Ron went to Interlochen, and when he was in St. Thomas, he actually started off playing guitar as a young musician, and the couple had a couple mentors in the community. But looking back at our upbringing in the Virgin Islands, one of the things we always talked about was being able to give back. And in order to give back the right way, we had to be educated, because there was a lot of people I met along the way that would share information with me and make suggestions, but they didn't have the formal training. So a lot of what they were saying was, limited. I'm not saying it wasn't good information. It was limited information. They could give me enough information to pique my interest. And when I started asking questions like, okay, if I do this, what shall I do? Well, man, I don't know. This is all I know. So we decided to focus on education, and being in New York City and being, a young lion and being part of that new voice and new sound and new talent coming up. Even the masters that we would meet encouraged us to continue our education. They said, man, sudden formal training we didn't have. We went on the road, we learned being on the bandstand. But if you can go to school and get your degree, that'll create a whole nother avenue for you. And they were right. Once I got my master's degree, 20 years after I left school and went back, it opened up so many doors for me as an educator. And we strive on that to make sure that when we go back to the Virgin Islands and go into the classrooms, from an educational standpoint, we're on the same league as their teacher, the band director, because most band teachers have those credentials. And it's just something that we consciously made a decision of to be that. So the members of our band, the 21st Century Band, they're all handpicked. These, when I say handpicked, I mean their talent was something that we sought out to be part of this sound we wanted to create. And coming from the Virgin Islands is one major component that we looked upon, because from a cultural standpoint, there's certain things we didn't have to explain. We could talk about a certain sound growing up and everybody knew what we were talking about, because we can reinvent that sound and put other elements on top of it. And it was just easier to do with that basic fundamental, musical fundamental coming from the Virgin Islands. So having that background from a cultural standpoint, from an education standpoint, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on as a band, so we could be accessible to younger musician, and even the regular connoisseur, so we can have a conversation with anyone about what we're doing and just share with them, hey, from a musical standpoint, this is what it is. So we've put a lot of thought into presenting ourselves a certain way. So that's the whole concept behind the band.
Now you're a professor at the University of the Virgin Islands and able to give back that way. But you also have about three or four other groups that you work with that you have that you and Ron kind of helped form, the Caribbean Jazz Institute. Again, another way to get your music out to the world is one of them.
Yes, yes. So just touching on the University of the Virgin Islands real quick. Well, I started at the University of the Virgin Islands in 2012 as an artist in residence, specifically to build a percussion department. And I did that for 4 years. And then I became the director of music. And I did that for 2 years. And then presently, I'm the chair of the Communication and Performing Arts Department. I oversee communication, music, art, theater. And 2 years ago, we started a dance program, which I was instrumental in bringing that on board at the university. So I oversee all of these programs while still teaching my own classes and performing, running the 21st Century Band. I play with a number of different groups also, one of them being John Faddis, who's a dear friend, a mentor. And a matter of fact, I don't want to date this interview, but next week I'll be performing at DZ's Club with John Faddis for his 70th birthday. And we're very excited to perform there. You know, I've been playing with John for over 30 years, and it's just amazing working with him. He's such the consummate professional. I mean, it's amazing to work with him, man. Every gig is a learning experience and an opportunity to meet other musicians. He has an open door policy where he brings people on the stage, doesn't matter the age, and he just, just put them to the test.
Huh?
And I've learned that from him, and I've witnessed that so many times. But um, besides John, one of the things that we built at home through our United Jazz Foundation. My wife, Nicole, and I started United Jazz Foundation many years ago, and it's our education component and platform that we work and mentor young men and women in the Virgin Islands through. We have a partnership with the University of the Virgin Islands. We have a partnership with the government of the Virgin Islands, the Department of Education. And through that platform, we created the Caribbean Music Institute. And over the past 10 years, we've mentored so many kids that we've been able to put together an orchestra. And it's been something that have been a passion of mine for so long. So we've been working hard at making this orchestra a new sound and new platform. It's the extension of the 21st Century Band. And we're very excited to bring that to the forefront as well. So that's something that we're presenting also along with the 21st Century Band as a product coming up of the Virgin Islands.
That's fantastic. And I know you're getting ready to get on the road and go back out into the world too. Where's your tour going to be taking you? So people can be
Well,
looking for you.
interestingly enough, I'm playing with John Faddis next week. And then I'm actually going to take a 10-day vacation with my family and go to Europe and visit my wife's family and spend some time over there. There's always some friends that I can partner with and play over there, but I will be taking a little bit of time off to do that and then come back in August and then set up for a fall presentation. And I have some gigs in October, November, and December with the band through different states. Ended up in the Virgin Islands in December, and then we have a number of things lined up for next year. And we're in conversation with the Department of Tourism at the request of the governor of the Virgin Islands to develop our second season of our Caribbean Music Festival on the island of St. Croix. So that's kind of the work that I'm doing right now, wrapping up the first season, which ended in Memorial Day in May, and we're developing the second season. So not only am I a chair of the university, lead of the 21st Century Band, but also music educator and producer of a music festival. So there's a number of different things that we're dealing with. And the good thing to say, one of the things I wanted to point out that I'm really excited and happy about performing with John Faddis next year is that he's one of our board members for our United Jazz Foundation, and he's our special guest director of our Caribbean Music Institute Orchestra as well. So we try to connect the dots with a lot of the different projects we have going on to make sure that everybody's involved and everybody's supportive And John being one of my mentors really influenced me a lot and helps with a lot of the things that we're doing.
All right, I'm going to have to wrap this up, but what I guess I would say words of wisdom you would you like to leave with our listeners, in particular young people?
Well, for the young folks, dreams become reality. If you continue to believe in them, become reality. Because I'm gonna tell you this, and this is really true. When I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, I used to dream myself being on the stage behind some drums, playing to a larger audience. Had no idea what it meant or how to even get there, but I'm here now. And I believe in dreams. I believe, if you put the energy and the resources behind your dream and that process, they become a reality. No dream is too far from your reach if you put your energy behind of it. And again, it's really important to have a mentor, someone to guide you. I didn't have that growing up, and I was able to be successful and get to where I'm at. So the quicker you can identify someone that you respect and doing what you want to do, if you see someone doing what you want to do and you say, I want to do that also, try and connect with them and see if they can mentor you, because that's the path. That's the first step to the path of making your dream a reality. They do come true, and it takes some work though. A lot of stuff does not happen overnight. It takes some work, but the path is the beautiful aspect of it. Getting to the stage and playing the music is great too, but the path is what builds character, and that's what builds the individual. So whatever your dreams are, know that they can be realistic. They can come to fruition if you believe in them, and just find that right person to help mentor you. So, and I'm here too. If you ever need to reach out and talk to someone, feel free to connect with me.
Dion, I have nothing else to add to that. Listen, thank you so much. Wonderful talking with you. And once again, many thanks to Dion Parsons. He's a Grammy Award-winning drummer, musician, and educator. Learn more about Dion at his website, dionparson.com. Once again, that's dionparson.com. And view performances with Dion and the 21st Century Band on YouTube. Until next time, seek peace, spread lots of love. I'm Maggie Linton.